Hello guys, it's David here, and in today's video I would like to go over how to create very simple but very effective high ROI dashboards for your business that will make you more money and will make you able to make very good business decisions. We will use make.com, we will use Excel or Google Sheets, and we will use Google Looker Studio. Let's get right into it. And first, the tech stack, I already mentioned it. We will use Google Sheets as our database place where we will store all the data that we want to make the dashboard out of. We will use Looker Studio for the dashboard, and we will use make.com to connect everything together. And there are a few main things that I want to have in this dashboard, and with that comes the data sources that I want to get them from. So first of all, I want to see the performance of my meta ads. So I want to pull data from Facebook. I want to get the amount of money spent per day. I want to see the impressions, the clicks, and really the important data that I will work with later. I also want to see performance of my website. So I want to see some basic metrics from Google Analytics, and I also want to see some basic metrics from the Search Console module. And lastly, I want to see data about the new leads coming in. I want to see the data about new meetings, and I want to see the data about people that are closed and financials that are connected to that. And that's what I will use ClickUp for, or specifically ClickUp CRM. And lastly, we will look at how to set up the dashboard actually, so how to do it in Looker Studio. Okay, so let's go. First, I will go through the make, or let me first show you how I want to structure the database. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lists in here. The first one is new leads. So this is the database that will track the leads. Here are some dummy data. And we always want to have date created, lead name. This is very basic table, very dashboard. Maybe if you're building this out for yourself or your client, you would also want to include the value of the opportunity, right? Or some further data. But we will work with this, and we will get this data through ClickUp CRM. So how this would work in the real world is that you get some, let's say, contact form submission, you pull that, you put it into your database or CRM, be it Salesforce, ClickUp, whatever else that you're using, and we want to pull that from ClickUp and put it into our database. Same thing with meetings booked, same thing with clients signed, and here are some other metrics that we will use. We'll use total revenue contracted, which is basically the revenue that you have on the contract saying, okay, this company will pay us $10,000, let's say. We also want to have cash flow that we're getting on day one. So the amount of money that we actually have that we can operate with. And we also want to calculate cash flow left. So if we fulfill our contract, how much money we're going to get in the future. If we're getting, let's say, half of the money before the service and half of the money after the service. All of this data is going to be pulled from ClickUp. And now there is two other important metrics that I want to measure, as I mentioned, Facebook ads and Google Analytics. For Facebook ads, this will be very basic. We will track the ads that we're running day by day, tracking amount spent, impressions, clicks, and then in our dashboard, based on the clicks, of course, and based on the amount spent, we will probably be calculating CPM and click-through rate. And then in Google Analytics, we will track the day of the event. We will again separate it by date. We will track date, number of sessions, new users. That's the GA4 part. And then from the Google Search Console, we will track search clicks and we will track impressions. And probably from that, we will track CTR, click-through rate, and we will also track search average position. So for instance, if you're just focusing on SEO right now, search average position is probably something you want to track, so you know if your SEO is working or not, or you see the direction that you're moving in. So I want to do it in Make. I want to create separate workflow for the Facebook ads, for the Search Console, and for the ClickUp events. I will separate it so it's nice and tidy, and the way I am thinking about it is that we will pull this probably ClickUp. We will set up a webhook, so when a new event happens in ClickUp, it will go in here automatically. And then because we're separating the Facebook and the Google Analytics by day, we will be pulling this once a day in the morning for the previous day. Okay, let's go. So first, let's start with the Facebook ad data, because that's something that's probably the most difficult part, because if you type Facebook, if you okay, so maybe something that's new to me. I always thought that, okay, you will probably need you would need the app anyways. So there is actually a Facebook module that I didn't know about, and I always went around using Graph API. But basically what this module, if you look at the advanced setting, wants you to fill in is client ID and client secret. So it works, you still need to set up the Graph API. And how I would do it honestly is just through requests directly. And here somewhere, I guess, never done this before, you'll find tag for the last video where I explained Facebook Graph API and the settings, how to create the account and how to really set it up so you can get the data out of it. So one thing that you have in the Facebook Graph API is your access token, and obviously that's something that you shouldn't share online. So here in this variable that I guess I can rename is the access token, so we can reference it later, right? And I don't need to show it publicly. So what we want to do is we want to make a request, right? HTTP request will be GET request, and now the URL that we will use, I already have it prepared, is the common Graph API URL. Again, refer to the last video that will also be in the comments or in the description to find out how to use the Graph API and how to really create the requests. What's important though is that I want this automation to be able to run on its own every day, right? So instead of choosing some time range that's just embedded in, I want to always run it for the previous day. So that's why I want to first take the now function that, let me show you. You can choose here, right? And the now function, if I just run it separately as a variable today. Now we will choose the now function. We'll run it, and what we will get is today's date in the basic format. Here also you see it's in check. So that's the basis, the now function. But we want to look for the date that was yesterday. So we want to use the add days function, and so we take now's date, and we want to specify that we want to add -1 day. Now run it again, and we get yesterday's date. And as you see, we get the date in the day, the month, which is written out, the year, and the time. But we want it formatted in a way that the Facebook Graph API can actually, use it. So we'll use the format date function. We'll put all of this, I guess, in. We don't need to actually put it in parentheses. We'll just use the format date function, and here we want it in a format year, month, day. Let's run it one last time, And now we should be getting exactly yesterday's date in the correct format. And that's what we're doing in here, really. As you see, we are just setting up the time range that's starting yesterday and ending yesterday. So we're pulling the data from yesterday. And then again, we will be pulling parameters, impressions, clicks, spend, again refer to the last video, and the access token will use this. Okay, great. Now let's see if the request works. Okay, I think we can unlink this. I can delete it. This was just for demonstration purposes. Save it, run it once, and let's see. And yeah, we got the data that we want to. So this is the data. And now what we want to do, obviously, is to parse the JSON. So we want to be able to actually work with the data. So that's that. Let's run it again. Transformer shouldn't be the last one. Sure, let's run it anyways. And now we get this collection with number of impressions, number of clicks spent, and the date that this is connected to, right? So we have the data that we want to, and now the only thing that's missing really is to add it to our dashboards. So Google Sheets, create, add a row. Now we need to choose the Google Sheets. I will probably just copy the ID, which in this case will be the easiest. Spreadsheet ID, or actually, because then we will need to select the ID, I will search it by path and we'll see if it will allow me to search it by the ID. Okay, it won't. YouTube. Fuck's sake. Sorry for the swearing. Select from all. That's why it's not working. Okay, one last try, because it just doesn't actually make was changing this a bit, and now it kind of works differently, but I guess that's just life. So now this should find the ID that we want to, hopefully. Okay, it doesn't, so we will find it by path. And now all of a sudden it's so easy to find. Okay, we'll just do this. It will be a bit more pain in the ass, but we'll just use the ID. So now we can select the sheet name. So we want to target the Facebook ads sheet, and the column range, whatever this means. Let's use this one. So basically it's just connected to how many columns we're using, where we could go even with the basic one because we don't have many columns, but usually I choose the A to CZ in case I'll be doing something with it later. I'll be adding some columns, so I don't need to change every single automation. Okay, so if we would be able to choose it, you know why? You know what's the problem? That the whole time I was using a wrong Google account, so that's why it wasn't working. Okay, so now if I search it by path, now it will work perfectly, right? This is comical. It's always just like the, the tiny mistakes that ruin your whole workflow. Anyways, what we want to select is this. So actually, if you look at the data that we're getting, right, you're getting the date in here. So theoretically, you could just use this. For me, in general, I like to have one source of truth in the automation. So I will just use the same way as I did before for getting the date, but it doesn't really matter. Probably choosing it from the parse JSON would be easier. Now, amount spent, we have it here. Impressions, again, very simple. Clicks, bam. Okay, that's it. And now, okay, value must not be empty. I don't think any value is empty actually. Yeah, it was just an error in saving. And now that's it. This is the whole automation that will help us to get the data from Facebook. And I will choose the schedule every day. And let's say we want to get it for the previous day, so we can get it very early in the morning. Let's do 2 a.m. We save it, run it once. And now if we go to the table, as you see, we have the yesterday's spent and the information that we wanted to get, right? So this is one thing. Now another thing, let's actually create an automation to add data to the Google Sheets, to the Google, from like Google Analytics and Search Console module. So we have this saved. Let's go back and okay. Actually here, what you can use is just GA4 module. It's in beta apparently, but it's working pretty well. And we want to generate report. You obviously need to connect your Google account. And now, actually, for this, I will just show you how to do it to get the data that we need to get the sessions and new users. But in general, what you will be maybe battling with a bit in Google Analytics is the dimensions and metrics. So basically, there are two variables that come into play. There are some dimensions. So let's say the dimension that we will want is these sessions, right? Or actually, no, here. Okay, so the dimension we will want to is day, I guess. And by choosing the dimension, it dictates us what metric we'll be able to get, because, well, it's like a pair that only works together in certain cases. So if you're doing something else than the example that I'm showing you, you will probably need to go through the documentation for GA4 and find which dimensions and metrics work together. So we want the sessions and we want the new users. Let's find the new users. Yeah, honestly, I'm not completely sure how it was called, so hopefully I'll be able to find it. Okay, new users. It's called new users. Okay, we have this, and then let me see, filter mode. No, this is fine. Okay, this should all be fine. And we want to get it for yesterday, right? Okay. Now let's see if everything is working as expected. Run this module. Okay, yesterday we had 105 new users, 128 sessions. So that's the data that's working. And now we want to use the Google search module because we also want to get the amount of searches and click-through rate and that kind of stuff. So Google search module, it works very similarly. So we'll use this website, start date. Again, here I would use one source of truth. So I guess the easiest thing will be just copy it, or just let's build it from the beginning, right? So we want to format day. Now the date that we want to get is, we want to use the add days function. We want to use now. We want to subtract 1 day. That's that. And now we want to format it in the way we were formatting it before, right? Year, month, date, easy. And it should be the same for start date and the end date. Again, here we need to use the dimension. So if I'm correct, we're choosing page in here, type web, okay. That's everything we need. Here you have explanations. If you're, for instance, working as a media company, maybe it will be news for you. But we'll be using web. Aggregation type auto, and now data state. This is something that I actually want to go over. In Google Search Console, you have two data states. One is final and one is all. And basically how it works is that Google Search Console gets data about the traffic, but then for some reason I never could guess why, it takes 24 to 48 hours to consolidate the data. They're saying that, you know, the 48 hours, it's to make sure that the data will be as accurate as possible. But if you want to get yesterday's data, if you choose final, it will not work because of this consolidation. So we will choose all to get yesterday's data as well. Okay. And now let's run it. And okay, page, data state, all. So let's see. So we're choosing yesterday. Okay, this should be fine, but I chose wrong side. So let's switch it up. Let's run it once again. And okay, now it's getting the data for multiple pages for some reason, which is not really what I wanted to do. Okay, so my mistake here, you need to choose the date as a dimension. So as I said, even I'm getting confused with the Google's dimensions and parameters, so don't worry about that. If you just need to look more into it, ask ChatGPT or look into the documentation. So to go over the setup, we choose the domain, we choose the date, we're choosing same start date and end date, so we get data for 1 day. Dimensions, date, type web, data state all, and the data we will get is clicks, impressions, click-through rate, and position. Okay, and now again we just want to add this data to our database, which is this Google Sheet. So choosing the Google Sheet again. Now we will be choosing different sheet. By the way, we'll be choosing the Google Analytics. Yes, it contains headers. And now date, I'll copy this. Date, sessions, that's something we will get out of the Google GA4, Google Analytics. So day 23, no. By the way, you will really need to scroll through all of this because it will give you all the data. So session 128, new users 105, and now the rest of the data is from Search Console. So 11 clicks, 42 impressions, click-through rate 26%, not bad, and position 7.97. Okay, and now if we run it once again, we should get all of this data and we should get it pasted into the Search Console. So let's save it, let's run it. And as you see, we have all the data we wanted. Okay, great. Again, I'm setting up the schedule for every day at 2 a.m. So we have some continuity. We're getting the data at the same time every day. Okay, save it. Of course, you would schedule it. You would turn it on, but in this case, it's just a test scenario. So we have the integration for Google Analytics, and then the last integration we need to create is ClickUp. And probably in this scenario, I will only show you, let's say, how I would get the contact form submissions, because the principle will be the same for new leads, for meeting books, and for client side, given you have CRM in ClickUp and you're just moving the leads through these stages, right? So YouTube, ClickUp, YouTube ClickUp, here, delete this module, and we want to choose ClickUp, and we want to watch tasks. We want to use the instant leads. We want to create a webhook. We want to obviously select your workspace. I will filter it by list. You will just choose your space, your folder, your specific list. And now what I will want to search for is task created, because when I get a new contact form submission, a task is created, and that's the event I want to watch, right? So we create the webhook, and when the task is created, basically what this webhook will give you is task ID. So we want to get a bit more data, so we need to add another module, get a task, and we will map it from the previous function. So as you see, you will not get that much data. You will get data about the person who made it, etc., but you will not get all the data that you want. So we will get the ID from the instant task, and then we will get the task and we'll get more data, and the data what we will want in this case is probably just like task name and when was it created. Yeah, this is very, very simple actually. So we'll get this data. Now we will again add a row to a Google Sheet and we'll be done. And as I said, normally you would do this automation for all 3 of the changes. So you would do it for new leads, for meetings book, and client side. And the only thing really that would be changing is that here, excuse this, then here in the webhook, when you were creating the webhook, you were choosing the event, right? And we choose event that's task created because, well, new contact lead, that's new task that was created. But for meetings or for the winning the client, that's actually just moving it through the CRM. So instead of watching tasks created, you would watch status change. Now sheet name, meetings booked, and here we will just use the date created, right? And we'll use the task name. That's it. very simple. And here you will just set it up to be instant. So here it will just get tracked wherever you make a new submission. So this is the part in Make. And now what I want to show you is how to create a dashboard out of it, actually. So what we will use is Looker Studio, and let me go back. This is how the Looker Studio will approximately look in the beginning, right, when you open it. And what I usually do is I use a template for the new dashboard, because it's just easier. You can see it graphically, you can modify it. It's better than starting from scratch. So what you want to do is click on change and share, I guess. Sorry for this being in a weird language, but what you want to do is create a copy, right? And here you can choose different data sources, but we'll get to it. So this is getting copied, and okay, this is the one that we can work with now. So let's call it YouTube dashboard. You want to name it somehow, lead by dashboard. That's the name of the automation agency I run. And now let's see what metrics we will want to have in here. So what's very neat in the Google Looker Studio, and that's why we're using it for the dashboard, is that you can choose the date range, and based on that the data will get adjusted, right? If you have some data. We don't have the data yet. So what I want to do is, and by the way, if you use the template, this never works for some reason. Sorry guys, quick cut, I'm back. I just wanted to switch the language to English so it's easier for you to follow this. So as I mentioned, when we import a template and we use this, it barely ever works. So we want to add a chart on our own. Add a chart, scorecard. Let's put it in here. And now what we will want to do probably is get a record count, right? We want to get the amount of new leads. Let's rename it. And now we can see that in the period that's in here, we got 47 new leads. If we change the period, let's say only for August up to today, it's 30 leads in the August. So this data corresponds to data in this table. Now we will probably want to track meetings booked as well. So again, I can delete this. I will add a new chart, new scorecard, put it next to it. There's also a tool for kind of making it pretty, but this is just something you can do later. And we want to add a new data source, right? So you want to choose Google Sheets. We'll choose the same Google Sheets, but this time we'll use meetings booked. Add that, loading, add to report. And again, here really what we're just using is record count. We can change the name to meetings booked. That's that. And what other data we want? So we want the client side. We want the number of clients that we signed for our business, but probably from that type we'll be getting more data. Actually, we'll be probably not getting only the number of clients, but we want to get revenue as well, right? So again, you know the drill by now. New data, client signed, add. We'll get a pop-up window again. Add to report. And Phew. Now they disappeared somewhere for some reason. So we'll paste it again, I guess. And here, let's go into the setup. We'll choose the data that we're getting. So we're getting from the client side. And first, we want to rename it. We want to rename it. Want to get the record count again, right? Yeah, it's a bad example. Most of them are in August, but whatever. We want to get the record count, and we want to name it clients side. Okay. By the way, the meetings are less than the client side, but even in a real life business, this can be the case. For instance, you had the meeting. It's a longer sales cycle. You had the meeting in the past, and now the people are just signing the contracts. So we have the client side, but what we also want to get from this is the revenue contracted in that month, and we also want to get the cash flow collected, probably. That's the data I would be getting. So how do we do it? Here we choose total revenue contracted, and now we can just name it revenue, I guess, for simplicity, and it will count all of these inputs, right? 7 people, we charge $5,000 per client, so that's 35,000. We can also go in here, choose data type, choose currency, and choose USD in here. So now we'll get it in USD, and you see that we get it even with decimals, display format, number 0, that's without decimals, and we have it all nice and clean. So another data that I set, another piece of data that we want to track is the cash flow day 1. It's the same deal. Basically, we want to choose the currency, data type currency. We want to choose the USD, which is somewhere down here, USD, and we want to choose number 0 as display format so we don't get all the decimals. Okay, that's it. That would be the main data when it comes to the leads, meetings, books, client side, revenue, cash flow. By the way, if you change this again, and this is really, I think, the staple point of why I would use the Looker Studio, is that if you change it for different time frame, you will get data that are connected to the time frame. You will get accurate data about that time. And here I would do marketing data. I will not go through the how to make the table pretty. I think it works very intuitively. You can go through it on your own, but here I will want to have marketing data. And let's see. So first, let's go through the data connected to the meta ads, right? So we'll need to add new source. Once again, add data. And actually, let's add both of the data, the Facebook ads and the Google Analytics. Let's add it both now, so we don't need to go through it again. Okay, add to report, and add another data, Google Sheets, YouTube dashboard data, Google Analytics, add, bam, and we have it all ready. So now what would we want from the Facebook ads? Well, we want amount spent, right? We want the impressions, we want the clicks, so that will be the first things we will want. So we want the amount spent. We want the impressions. And we want the clicks. This is very simple. It's a lot of impressions. We want the clicks. But one other thing that, or maybe two other things that we want is CPM and click-through rate. And this is really where Google Studio shines, because you can use custom functions to get other data. Let's calculate the click-through rate. And so how we do this, how we get the click-through rate, is we create a new field, we go to setup, we add field, name it click-through rate, and now what click-through rate is, right? The click-through rate is the amount of clicks in the period divided by the amount of impressions. So we want to sum all the clicks in the period, and we want to divide it by sum of all the impressions. Apply, and the click-through rate was 0.04 or 4%, and here you can choose display format as a percentage, right? We'll apply it, and no, this is not correct though. Okay, so let's see. I guess to get the percentage we need to multiply it by 100, and yeah, we get the correct percentage. And another thing we would probably want to add is CPM, cost per mil, and again we create a new field, CPM, and now what CPM is, right? It's, and now if I'm not mistaken, actually, let's actually CPM formula, let's actually search for it just so I don't misinform you. So it's total campaign spend divided by the number of impressions times 1000. So it's sum of amount spent divided by sum of impressions times 1000. Okay, and now it's saying that to get 1000 impressions it will cost us $2.89, right? And now we got 893,000. So if we calculate 893 times 2.93, 2,600 spent. And obviously I didn't do it completely accurately, but I'm just trying to, make sure that the numbers make sense. So this is the data, this is the spending for our meta campaigns, and now we also want to get the data for our website from GA4 and Google Search Console. Here we will choose different data source. We'll be using Google Analytics, and first we want to get sessions. It's just some, very easy. We want to get new users, and I think I'm becoming repetitive in here because really this is very, very easy thing to do. New users. We also want to see what else. Okay, search clicks. I would start with search impressions actually, because it's like how it goes behind each other. First search impressions, and then maybe you decide to click on it. So search impressions, search clicks, search clicks. Now we want the click-through rate again, right? But the click-through rate that's calculated in here, it's the search clicks divided by the search impressions, and that's the click-through rate for the day. But if we would just use the function that's built in, if we would put search click-through rate, it would just sum the click-through rate. We will get 7.68%, which doesn't make sense, right? And even if we would average it, or 0.15, that seems like that might be correct, but it's not. If you took algebra, I guess, you know that you can't get the average click-through rate from the days by just averaging this, by just averaging the click-through rate for each day, because the amount of impressions was different. So again, same as with the Facebook, you need to actually create custom function, click-through rate or search click-through rate, and you need to sum all of the clicks for that period, or is it called search clicks? Okay, and you need to divide it by sum of all of the search impressions. I'm not sure honestly why am I not getting this function. Let me just see. It will give us error, of course, but let's see how is it called? Search impressions. So let's try once again. Maybe we need to name the function differently. Let's name it click-through rate search, and we sum all the search clicks divided by all the sum again, of course, of all these search impressions. Okay, now it works. So the click-through rate actually wasn't 0.15, as we would get just from simply averaging the click-through rate for each day, but it's 0.17. Maybe small distinction, but kind of important. And the last thing we want to do is click-through, not click-through rate, average position. And here average position is just a variable, so we can just average it out. So average position, we don't want sum, we want average, and that's it, 31. Now if we look at these numbers, it kind of makes sense, because it seems like that in this data set it was actually declining. So here you would see, if you would be doing some SEO campaign, it's probably not working that well. You should change it. Okay, that's that. This is your dashboard. If you change the dates, it will automatically adjust. And that's everything from today. A bit longer video. If you have anything that you would like to add, if you have anything that you would like to automate, anything you would like to learn about when it comes to this world, write it down in the comments. It will also help me with the next video, and that's everything. Have a nice day. Bye.